Hello, and welcome to another episode of Ramblings from Two Meddling Kids. I'm Edward Hunt with my friend
Mike Cunningham.
and we are the Meddling Kids. Today, we're going to be reviewing Violent Night, starring David Harbour and a plethora of others. For those of you just joining us, how we do our podcast is we will give a spoiler-free review. That is, we'll give you our overall thoughts on the movie without letting you know what happened. So that way you can decide, say you haven't seen the movie yet, still listen to the first 10 minutes, decide whether or not you want to go, and then you say, hey, these two guys liked it. Maybe I should check it out too. Or eventually we'll have a movie where, no, they didn't like it too much. And then you don't have to see it either. Or do. We don't control you. From there, we'll give you a little bit of background on the movie, and then we'll go into a play-by-play, almost as if you were watching the movie with us, even though you weren't. Mike, you ready to get started?
That I am.
All right. So give us with a spoiler-free review, please.
Okay, so basically, Violent Night is Die Hard meets Miracle on 34th Street, in a way.
Okay, I can see that. Plus a little other Christmassy going on.
Well, so you're saying Die Hard isn't a Christmas movie?
I mean, no, Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
I don't want to get into that right now.
That is the hill I will die on. It is a Christmas movie.
But it was just very interesting. It's like this very rugged, like very what's his name? Zack Snyder take on Zack Snyder take on Santa. Mm-hmm. It's action packed, I guess.
Okay.
Like I did really enjoy the some of the fight choreography and the fight scenes. It was very realistic and grounded for a movie about fucking the actual Santa.
Yeah.
The performances were fairly great. David Harbour really carries it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like John Leguizamo was over the top, but it wasn't like over the top in a good way as a villain.
Yeah.
Didn't really like you'll learn this about me. I don't really care for precocious children in film. Okay, y'all need to be going to bed and doing your homework. So I wasn't really a fan of Trudy. I mean, the actress was fine.
Yeah.
Granted, she could not pull off crying and making me believe it.
No.
But I assume that'll come further in her career.
Yeah, she's a child actor. Yeah.
But no, it was entertaining.
Okay.
To say the least. Obviously it left some things, on the table with its concept, but I did really enjoy it. I was entertained. I love David Harbour. Didn't realize how much I liked him because I kind of skipped Stranger Things this season.
Yeah.
But overall, I would give it a 3.
A 3 out of 5.
I really did enjoy it. It was like the pacing was fine. I guess a little slow at times, but it wasn't too bad. It was an hour and 40 minutes, and it was like it didn't really drag on too much.
Yeah.
So the pacing was fine. David Harbour was fucking great.
Mm-hmm.
I had my issues with it. We'll get into it, but yeah. So 3 out of 5, I'll give it.
Cool. Yeah, I'll echo similar sentiments. To start, Die Hard with a little bit of Home Alone sprinkled in there on top too. And they really tried to just play up the, hey, we're a bunch of Christmas tropes put together in a movie while all hell's breaking loose, really. So I applaud it for that. They took a situation. Hey, what would happen if Santa is trapped in a house and trying to rescue a family from terrorists, basically, and then they ran with it. And because of that crazy situation, there are some ups, there are some downs. Again, I echo David Harbour did phenomenal. I thought from a body acting style, from him being, I didn't know he had all that action in him. I really didn't.
Did you not watch?
Yeah, but that was a lot of action. But that was just but this is completely different kind of action with David Harbour. I thought he did great. John Leguizamo's character, I think the actor did pretty well, but I think the dialogue and the story, like how are you making this work? What is this man's motivation?
I think that's what I was I told you that I was a little bit worried about with watching the trailer. It was very much like every time he got a kill or something like that, it was a ho ho ho. It was like, are we doing this every time?
Yeah.
So
Silent Night.
Surprisingly, David Harbour as Santa wasn't the one delivering those lines. It was John Leguizamo. Mm-hmm. But I assume he was having fun, but it just didn't really come. Like he wasn't like over the top enough as a villain.
Yeah, and I would say so with all of that, and some other performances fell a little flat too. But considering it was a kind of daring premise of like we're having Santa Claus do this because you've had Santa Claus as a horror villain now. Mm-hmm. You've had like evil Santa Claus in horror movies. Then you've had all the classic Santa Claus. I've never seen Santa Claus single-handedly kill 20 dudes. So I applaud it for that. It was entertaining. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. It wasn't amazing. Did I go in with a little bit of higher expectations? Yes. Did it kind of underdeliver for my own hopes? Yes. But again, I just hoped that this was going to be amazing. Instead, it was entertaining. I thought it was solid. So a 3 out of 5. So before we hop into a little bit of background and our plot summary, let's hear a quick word from our sponsors. We almost had one, ladies and gentlemen. We almost had one. It got real close. But, I think it wasn't really the right fit, so that's totally fine. So instead, you still get made. Hi, I'm Edward Hunt. I'm a real estate agent here in the DMV. I will help buy and sell homes in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. My team is the Just Be team, and we are all about finding where you're meant to be. So with that, I love movies, and this is an important part of my life, and that is really what we want to do for everyone that we work with is find where you are meant to be, where you can just be yourself, whatever that is. And furthermore, we work with the brokerage Compass, who has amazing agents all over the country. So even if you're not in D.C., Maryland, or Virginia, but say you're in Florida and you need to find an agent, we have a ton of amazing agents over in Florida, and we can connect you with them. But that's all for me right now. Mike, ready for some background?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay, so Violent Night, it was released this year, December 2nd, 2022, directed by Tommy Wirkola, who's also directed films such as Dead Snow in 2009, which is basically about people trying to survive zombie Nazis. So you see where his mind
He has
is.
a trope. He has a type of movie he likes. This is his movie. Right?
He also did Hansel and Gretel, Witch Hunters.
Yep, I remember that.
And then What Happened to Monday, which was a very interesting one about this this group of like set couplets or something like that pretend to be one person.
Oh, okay.
It's interesting in the future because it was like about population control. So it was he has a very interesting filmography. This movie stars David Harbour as Santa.
Yeah, it does.
John Leguizamo as Scrooge.
Yeah.
Cam Gidget as Morgan. Alex Hassel as Jason. Some people know Alex Hassel from The Boys, who played Translucent in the first season.
He exploded. Spoilers.
Alexis Louder as Linda, Edie Patterson as Alva, and Beverly D'Angelo as Gertrude. Obviously, Beverly D'Angelo, famous from the National Lampoon Christmas Vacation movies.
So having her in this was pretty cool. It was a very nice nod. I appreciated that.
I just did the connection to Christmas.
Yeah.
So the budget for this film was $20 million. Mm-hmm. Since it just came out, it's projected to gross about $10 million for the first weekend, which
you saw it Thursday.
Yeah, that's pretty solid, especially with Black Panther just still being out and not too many big releases. So like Black Panther might still be riding that wave for the next week or two until Avatar comes out. Yeah. Rotten Tomatoes currently has a rating of 67. Okay. 67%, which is not too bad. Yeah. With an audience score of 90, surprisingly. But once again, it just came out, so we don't know how that'll shift.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense to me because because Rotten Tomatoes is did you like it? Yes or no. So 67% of critics had like generally favorable, and 90% of the audience was generally favorable. Yeah. Is it groundbreaking cinema? No. Is it entertaining? Yeah, it's pretty entertaining. So that makes sense to me of why it's going to have that rating.
And then last but not least, we have the tagline, which is, "You better watch out."
Because Santa Claus is coming to town.
just the first part. He added that.
Yeah.
Because that's a long ass tagline.
Oh, it just goes on and on and on.
So there you have it. That is the background for Violent Night.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, let's get into it. So how does this movie open? What do we really see?
So the movie opens in Bristol, England on Christmas Eve at a bar. So you have Santa Claus, David Harbour, sitting at a bar. He's fairly drunk. He's been there for a while, obviously. Mm-hmm. And he orders another round of drinks, and another Santa, a mall Santa.
Yes.
Confuses him as a fellow mall Santa.
He could have been the Salvation Army Santa. I don't know. There's a lot of Santas out there.
I know the leads. So yeah, they have a kind of a back and forth about, how long have you been doing this? And our Santa Claus speaks on, he's been doing it for a long time.
He's lost count of all the years.
Yeah. Which is it was very funny because it was like he kept it very ambiguous. Mm-hmm. And then you see him, it's very interesting. Obviously it's Santa drinking, which is like, I'll talk about like the representation of Santa. We've seen like bad Santa, right?
Yes. Yeah. Bad Santa.
But also that's not the real Santa Claus. That's just just a guy in a suit.
Yeah.
But to see like this actual Santa, he's grizzled.
Actual magical Santa Claus.
And he's like really kind of worn down from, and I think it's very interesting. You see this modern telling of Santa Claus recently. We're just like, it's usually your Miracle on 34th Street, your Santa Claus or whatever it is. We're just like, he's that jolly guy. Santa Claus is always a a family-filled time and stuff like that. But more recently, you're seeing the background of the industry that is Christmas and what it takes to actually, to be Santa Claus in a modern age. Yeah. So he's very much like complaining about like all kids want is video games and they don't believe anymore.
Yeah, which is great because a lot of Christmas movies in general, like the classic Christmas movie does is someone's a curmudgeon, right? Mm-hmm. It's Scrooge. It's blanking on that. Yeah, my apologies. Someone's a big grumpy Gus. But someone doesn't have Christmas spirit. Mm-hmm. And by the end of this holiday Christmas movie, they find Christmas spirit and like they all go happily ever after. So Violent Night takes it and says, hey, you know who doesn't have Christmas spirit? Santa Claus himself. And you're like, oh, that's different. Okay.
So he says this might be the last Christmas, the last one. And then before he leaves, he gives a gift to the bartenders for her grandson. And she's like, how do you know one by name? Yeah. And that I have a grandchild. And he exits a door that leads to the roof. So she goes to follow him and sees that, he's ridden off on a sleigh. Reindeer. And so it's interesting because of the fact that, like I said, you realize that in this world, people, could give or take it because Christmas is very confusing. It's just like you got parents buying gifts, but there's also Santa Claus.
Yeah.
So
well, that's always the confusing part about Christmas movies. That's why I just don't think about it too hard because all these adults are like, there's no such thing as Santa. Then, sir, how do those gifts appear under the tree every year? That doesn't make sense. And like maybe the parents are just really bad at communicating and they also don't even ask
They're just
each other.
Sitting,
you did it, right? Yeah. They're just like, well, I know I didn't do it, so that person must have done it, and I'm not going to ask or double check, and we just keep it moving.
So the bartender sees him fly off with his in his sleigh and his reindeer, and then in Grumpy Gus fashion, he vomits all over.
So if you didn't know what kind of movie you were in for, now you do.
I'm getting tired of films showing me vomit. I know what it looks like. We're good.
No, this was very well done vomit. It had the right amount of chunks,
the
steam that he
moving on. So that's our introduction to Santa.
That's Santa
Christmas Eve. Yeah. And then we jump to Greenwich, Connecticut, where Jason Lightstone, I believe his name is being picked up by his wife, Linda, and his daughter, Trudy. Her real name, Gertrude. They call her Trudy.
Yes. And a strange wife.
Yeah, so it was like, you didn't. I guess you didn't really know. I guess you could tell that she was upset with him. Yeah, but for what you just didn't know. But there was definitely some tension between them. But he tries, being the parent. If you're co-parenting or something like that, you kind of try to keep it positive in front of the child. Yeah. So he's like really excited. He puts on the ears for Christmas and really tries to cheer up his daughter to see her grandmother and the family.
For sure.
So they drive to his family home where his mom lives, and you get to meet his sister and her family, her boyfriend Morgan, her son Bert.
Bertrude.
We find out later his name is Bertrude because she was trying to name her child after her mother, but she had a son, so she could name her. She couldn't name her son Gertrude, so she named him Bertrude, which is so much better.
I know, apparently so. And these are like the classic rich people, right? They live on a complex. They go in, you meet this guy, Al. Poor Al. And you just see immediately, you're like, oh no, this is like, they're a very dysfunctional, uber rich family. Yes. And you can tell, like, it's a compound that they live on.
Full of staff and security. And then they've also hired a catering company. And then right in the beginning, you can see that this catering company is, I guess, kind of bad at their job.
They're not jolly.
Yeah, well, there's that. And then you also see them that, like, there's a guy there, I guess a butler or something like that, really chastising him for one of the bartenders for her work or something like that. So it's something I noticed ahead of time. And then also another one that's dressed up as like an elf, very just unprofessional. So there's something sketchy about, the caterers.
She was cutting limes wrong, which is a big, faux pas in catering. You do want to cut them lengthwise so they can fit in beer bottles and on drinks better. You don't cut them widthwise. What are you thinking?
So like I said, you meet the sister, her family, and then they're waiting for the mom to enter the room, and then you see this kind of tension between the sister Alva and the brother, Jason, the dad.
They don't like each other.
They do not like each other. She mentions that maybe this is the year that her mom steps down from the company and lets one of them run it. And you see that kind of back and forth. And Jason's like, I don't, that's all you. I'm tired of playing mom's game and stuff like that. And this is the first time I noticed that there might be tension between Jason and Linda. She says, like, kind of catch me up to what's going on. Very indicative that, she either hasn't been around or, there's a distance between them. Yeah. So he's giving her the rundown, but also giving the audience a rundown on, like, the family, introducing us to, the other members of the family. And then so like the mom comes in, and you can tell she's very much like your cold matriarch in a uber rich film.
High-powered matriarch. She comes in on the phone being like, well, why don't you just suck my dick? And like, blah, blah, it's Christmas. And then she's like, yeah, Merry Christmas to you too, Senator. And hangs up the phone. You're like, all right, this woman has some clout in the United States of America.
So as we're being introduced to the Lightstone family, where you see Santa Claus delivering gifts, and it goes back to what he was saying about hating this, this current is modern version of Christmas. So you see a bunch of Amazon gifts under the tree, not even wrapped, just the Amazon packages.
Amazon box. Yeah. List which just say cash and video.
Yeah. So you just see him stuffing cash in the socks. So it's just like there's not that joy from that you got from like a Rudolph Christmas or like whatever plays on ABC Family during the holidays. And then and
then as we're continuing along from there too, Santa Claus is still delivering all his. He's still giving coal to the naughty people.
Yes.
Which, again, how do people not realize Santa's real when this man is asleep? His daughter's on the good list, so she gets a nice present. The man's passed out on the couch, which, for the record, I don't think he was naughty. He seemed like he was a single dad trying to take care of his daughter. But he had a six-pack on the coffee table. Santa Claus took the six-pack, left a piece of coal in its place, and said, "To you from Santa."
But what I will say is, I noticed that in that scene, he looked at the kid, and you can see like this is why he's doing it.
Yes.
I guess you'll see another example of it later. It was like, yes, he is very jaded in this whole Christmas thing, but there's a reason why he is, Saint Nick.
Exactly.
So back at the lighthouse compound, that's exactly what the fuck it is. The parents, Jason and Linda, are tucking Trudy in, and she mentions that she wasn't able to go see Santa this year, and she sees him every year. Another indicator that they're separated.
Yep.
And then so Jason, thinking quick on his feet, he goes down to the basement and finds a walkie-talkie, wraps it up, and gives it to Trudy, and says that this is a direct line to Santa. Now he, is very busy, but he'll hear you.
Yeah, and very well done as a parent.
Quick thinking.
I hope when I'm a parent that I'm like that quick thinking too. I want to lie to my kids that quickly. All right, that's really what I
feel like I would have been like,
and keep them go to sleep.
But that was my first indication. It was like one very good parent and stuff like that. But it was just also, how old is this little girl?
Yeah,
because I talked about it yesterday. After the age of 10, somebody in school should have ruined Santa for you. Like,
I think she was.
It's not an older cousin. It's some bully, and
I think she was supposed to be like 8 or 9.
I looked her up. I couldn't find her actual age. So.
Yeah. I think she was portraying like an 8 or 9-year-old.
Fair.
With, the later interactions they had with her and Santa as well.
But so she gets the walkie-talkie. The parents step outside of the room, and she gives her a wish saying that, she doesn't want any presents. She just wants her family to be a family again.
Yeah, she wants mom and dad back together.
Yes.
The true Christmas spirit. That's Trudy right here.
And then you see Jason give a kind of saying that tension between them as well. Like he's very much either mama's boy, he's very much tied to his mom because of her wealth.
Yes.
And he was saying, what if we could just get away, run away? And I think at that time, he says that, and then immediately you see the caterers turn out to be mercenaries.
Yes.
And so like they get the cue from their leader, and they take out the security guard watching the cameras, and then they just start taking out all the security and the staff in the house.
And poor Al. That's why I mentioned Al in the beginning. Al has a death scene, man. Like he's this really jolly, not head of security, but he runs the gate. He opens the gate for the cars, and you're like, oh, what a nice interaction he's having with the wife and Trudy and Linda, the wife. And like that's really nice. And he's all like, oh yes, Mr. Lightstone, absolutely. So you can see there's a little tension between him and the son, but still, very nice guy. Man, he gets just shot right in the forehead, just boom, like, okay, yeah, it's like when the violence starts, man, it starts in this movie.
So the mercenaries have taken over the house. Gertrude, the grandmother, try to get her security team tries to get her to her panic room, and you kind of see Alva, the sister's like, there's only room for like 3, so they're trying to figure that out.
She tries to leave her son. So again,
definitely tries to leave Gertrude.
Yeah, tries to leave Bertie. And then also,
Morgan.
Well, yeah, John Leguizamo's character Scrooge.
Yes.
He comes out of the the safety room, the panic room, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. You just opened it. That doesn't make sense.
What panic room has windows?
Yeah, that's not how panic rooms work, sir. But all right, I'll give it to you for that.
So Scrooge intercepts her, trying to get to the retreat to her panic room. So they gather the family into the living room. So you have Gertrude, Alva, Morgan, and Bert, and then you have Jason, Linda, and Trudy.
Yes, and before all this happens, Santa gets here.
Yeah, right? So Santa arrives at the Lightstones, and he, delivering gifts, and he kind of like relaxes because Trudy has left out cookies.
Pours himself a nice glass of very nice brandy, and like falls asleep in the massage chair. Yes. But also, I want to say too, Christmas movie, Santa, you're supposed to come when everyone's asleep, man. Like everyone in the family except Trudy is downstairs in the living room.
How you gonna deliver all those gifts? Waiting for everybody to shut their eyes.
Christmas magic. All right, Christmas magic. All right, no one knows how it works.
Yada yada. So yeah, he's on the estate. Mm-hmm. And then like we've said, they killed all of the staff, gathered the family into the living room, and now they're doing a final sweep of the estate. Yeah. And so one of the mercenaries finds Santa. Well, first he goes into a room. Yeah. Santa tries to hide
behind the Christmas tree.
And then they get into a scuffle. Mm-hmm. And it was like, and you'll see this throughout the film, but it was very interesting with the fight choreography, them utilizing stuff in the room.
Yes.
And then you get to see also him utilizing, I don't know if he used the bag.
He didn't use the bag yet here.
But it was just like utilizing stuff in the room.
They used tinsel. Like all like the tinsel in the tree. He's like wrapping the tinsel around the guy. The guy's wrapping tinsel around him. They're scuffling back and forth.
And so like during the scuffle, the guy shoots at the roof, scaring away the reindeer. Mm-hmm. So they'll go Santa's escape. Yeah. And then so he kicks the guy out of the window, but he was wrapped up in light, so he also gets dragged out the window. The guy gets impaled on an icicle,
like an icicle tree that like the standing icicle tree garden decorations you have, because those are sharp enough to kill somebody.
People have those.
Yeah.
But he's out of the house. Mm-hmm. He's killed his assailant. Yeah. And he tries to escape.
Yes.
And then this is what I was talking about when he saw the kid in the first house. Mm-hmm. He sees Trudy in the living room with the rest of the family, and it was just something in him that he's just wired. I have to help this little girl. Yeah. He couldn't just abandon him. Yeah. So we get another monologue about the reason why Scrooge and his team are there. They know that there is $300 million in a vault in the house, and they want that money.
The Lightstone family got $300 million to distribute to high people for the war in Iraq, and to make sure that money kept flowing and oil kept flowing. And then the matriarch, she stole that $300 million in the fog of war and kept it at the house. Yes. So now Scrooge, John Leguizamo's character, knows that money is there, and that's why they are now attacking to steal that $300 million. Yeah.
So while they're doing a sweep, they find the guy that Santa killed. So down there, they know that somebody's still out there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is when we get the second. Santa is, and like I said, he refuses to leave. He wants to help the family. So he's snuck back into the house, and he gets discovered by a second mercenary. He just can't catch a break.
No, he cannot. Yeah.
And this is where you see once again them utilizing. So they're in a kind of a game room. Yep. So there's a pool table there. Mm-hmm. He gets kicked over the pool table. And so he stalls the guy so he can collect pool balls.
Puts them in a stocking.
In the stocking. Yeah. And he uses a lot of those things too in the movie was just like, if you get hit a few times, movies really think that people are just indestructible. Yeah. But so he hits the guy with the pool balls. And then it was so funny making it realistic in this fantasy film of the real Santa Claus. Yeah. David Harbour tries to jump over the pool table and was like, all right, I can't.
He's a fat guy, so he can't actually jump. So then he lays and rolls over the pool table instead.
This is really funny. And then we get another gruesome death where he kind of he keeps trying to the guy's on top of Santa, choking him or something like that. And Santa keeps grabbing whatever he can around him and just ornaments. Yeah. And they just keep shattering on the guy's head. And then so he grabs a star from the tree and jams it in the guy's eye. And the guy's upset, but he hasn't gone down. So he's approaching Santa again, and Santa backs up, plugs in the star, and it just electrocutes the guy's head.
Because these are the stars on top of the Christmas tree that you plug in to light up. So there's a star in this dude's eye, and then he falls over, face just bursts into flames.
Which was, that happens.
That's realistic, yeah.
But so now, just like in Die Hard, now now Santa has a walkie-talkie, so he's able to communicate with not only the killers, or the mercenaries, but Trudy, because Trudy still has her walkie-talkie that her dad gave her, and she's been trying to contact Santa. Yeah. And so he switches the radio frequencies and connects to her. Yes. So now he's talking to her, and she's giving him the background on how many mercenaries there are left, and kind of just calming her down and getting information. Sorry.
No, yeah. So then from there, as he's coming around getting information, they realize that the other guy is no longer there. Right, that he killed. Mm-hmm. So then that's when the mercenary and Santa chat, because Santa, he tries to go to the outside, he tries to call for help. Nothing's really working. He has that communication with the mercenaries that are there. Very reminiscent of, Die Hard with, blanking on the main bad guy's name.
I can't remember. I just know it's Alan Rickman.
Yeah, Alan Rickman's character in Die Hard. I can't believe I'm blanking on that. But yes, but still, they're talking back and forth. It's okay, we'll come back to it. But they're talking back and forth. It's like, what do you want? He's like, well, I'm Santa Claus. And he's telling everyone he's Santa Claus. Yeah. Like, he's just not hiding. He's like, no, I'm Santa. It's
not
fine.
To go back, but so during the fight with the second guy, before he jams the star in his eye, he's utilizing, once again, it was interesting how they use their environment to fight. So he's utilizing the toy bag, and since it's magic, he just keeps pulling out random shit. Yeah. random toy
video game.
So he says at one point, he pulls out, he says, "Oh, Die Hard on Blu-ray."
Yeah. See what you did. Exactly. Very little nod. Yeah.
And then also seeing the magical elements of Santa. So you see the toy bag, and you also see his list, the naughty or nice list. So Trudy tells her his name, and he looks on his list and sees that she's been good.
Yep.
And then he talks to Scrooge, John Leguizamo's character, and he just looks at the naughty or nice list again, and he sees that they're all on his naughty list.
All the bad guys.
And I think that was interesting to introduce, like, obviously this is Santa. What do they think? Obviously he has a reindeer, he has a toy bag, he has a naughty or nice list. So then now since they've talked to, since Scrooge has talked to Santa, he's furious.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, so they go back to the family in the living room, and they're like, okay, who's the fucking Santa that you hired?
Yeah.
And Gertie's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I hate hiring Santas.
It's tacky.
It's tacky. So they do a kind of a torture scene where they use, there's the living room is full of nutcrackers in varying sizes. So they grab one, and this is a funny scene talking about the dynamics of the family and how there's so much tension between us. So it's just like, who am I going to torture? And Alva, the sister, immediately goes, Jason,
torture him.
He's mom's favorite.
He's mom's favorite. She'll be able to tell. He'll tell you everything if you do that. It's like, there's no loyalty in this family, man.
So he goes over, and they immediately stick one of Jason's fingers in the nutcracker and break it.
Yep.
And then he's like, I don't know. He doesn't get any information. So he goes and grabs a bigger one. He was like, well, they are called a nutcracker
for a reason.
And then it was like, so Scrooge is like, we'll put on his pants. We're gonna flatten his nuts. And then Kira, I don't know, I can't remember her code name.
Yeah.
But she's like, I'm not touching this guy's nuts.
This was a female mercenary character. Yeah.
And then here comes one guy who's like, I'll do it.
The Krampus. His code name was Krampus. He was the sociopath. He was like, I'll do it for sure.
And so right before they're going to mutilate Jason's nuts, Trudy goes, that's the real Santa. I've been talking to him, and this is why I said precocious children get on my nerve.
Yeah. How dare she save her father? How dare she?
You die with the lie, lady. So she's saying, that's the real Santa. He told me he's going to kick your ass. And I was, that was another thing. It's not to jump back real quick.
Yeah.
But it was like, she goes to Santa as she's talking to him. He was like, are you going to kick their ass? He was like, don't say, you're on the nice list.
You're on the nice list. Calm down.
And she was like, can I say butthole? He was like, say it's derivative. What about anuses? He was like, I mean, that is the
scientifically correct. That's the scientific term.
And it was like, these are the funny moments with David Harbour. That was really funny. But so back to the torture. She says, Santa's gonna take her, and then Jason, kind of being frustrated, trying to get her to be quiet.
Yeah, because he doesn't want her daughter. He doesn't want his daughter to get hurt.
Yeah,
that's why.
And he's just like, Santa's not real. Yeah, or something like that. And it was like, so Trudy is like devastated to find out at her ripe age of 15, I assume, that that Santa's not real. So she runs off. Yeah. Her mom tries to follow her, but they just let her go. So Trudy retreats to the attic. Yeah. And now you have this. At least she's away from the living room, so she can kind of really communicate with Santa. Yeah.
And then Santa now at this point in time, he's now gone back to the house, and he's trying to he realized he's bleeding pretty bad from that second fight. So you see Santa Claus shirtless, sit down, and he's kind of fat, but just covered with these Celtic and Norse knots. I was just tattooed. He's all tatted and scarred up. And then Santa Claus uses a freaking ornament hanger, the ornament wire you put on ornaments, and tinsel. He puts it over a candle to then stitch up his wound. And you're like, all right, who is this Santa Claus? Because why does he have basically the equivalent of a Viking tats
Yeah.
and like your game of berserker knots everywhere.
He passes out. He gets a vision of being on a battlefield as a Viking. Then he snaps out of it because Trudy wakes him up. She's retreated to the attic, and they kind of get you kind of get that moment where he's like saying who he was, and you're like, before he was jolly old Saint Nick, he was a Viking, he was a warrior, he pillaged and plundered and took whatever he
killed
wanted.
Everybody.
He killed,
and he had Skull Crusher, his handy dandy sledgehammer.
So it's just like she's kind of saying like, well, that was you, maybe you being Santa now is like kind of that your redemption.
Yes, yeah.
And so then we also see back in the living room while Santa's like getting better. There's also a ticking clock. So Gertrude mentions that back in, I guess, the 70s or something like that, her brother was kidnapped because obviously they come from a rich family. Yeah. And they have a strike team that went in and extracted him and had him back home in a week. Yeah. And those kidnappers were never found.
Yeah, they have a kill team.
And so like the kill team is on the way. I think at one point it was like 30 minutes away, something like that. So they're coming. Yeah. And so Krampus he's watching over the family in the living room. He says, "Why don't we open gifts?" Yeah. And they open. So first, Morgan, the sister's boyfriend, gives Gertrude her gift, and it's a spec script or something like that.
He wants Gertrude to pay for his movie
because he's an actor. Yeah. So that's the first gift. Gertrude gives her a picture of, like, a framed picture of the first moment. Their first moments is when Gertrude was born. Yeah. And when Alba was born. Yeah. And Gertrude just goes, "Yeah, I was there."
Yeah, I was there.
It's 0 for 2.
Yeah, two strikes. What we got?
Yeah. And then Krampus says, "What about Jason, the son?" And he's like, I think I left him in the car." Yeah. And Bert, being fucking Bert, goes, "No, I got you, dude. I remember seeing you drop off something." So he gives a gift, and it's a bottle of whiskey or scotch or something like that.
Good, like her favorite whiskey.
And then a note. And she reads the note. She looks at Jason, and it was like, you don't know what's on there, but obviously it's something where like she wants to keep secret. Yes. And then you go back to I believe Santa. Oh yeah. So there's another exchange with Santa, and I think he tries to take out Kira. Yes. And fumbles. So he has to retreat to a room, and he gets captured.
Yep. By Kira, who's one of the mercenaries, the head Scrooge mercenary, and then another guy.
Bjorn, I believe.
Yeah, Bjorn. Yeah.
And so they're interrogating him.
His name's Gingerbread is the coach.
Yes, that's what it was. He was the one pissed off about this.
Yeah. Because this was a dude, he just like laid out a security guard earlier, just like started punching the crap out of him.
He punched him once. That was it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He punched him once, and then he's just like, "Do we really need to stick to these damn code names?" He's like, "Gingerbread, calm down."
Central Town, so now Santa's tied up, and you get the backstory on Scrooge, and they're saying like, his dad used to love Christmas. There was such pageantry to it. He loved, decorating and giving out gifts. And then one year he got laid off, and that Christmas was horrible. There was nothing, not even a tree. Yes. And so he became spiteful because the neighbors they weren't affected by, layoffs or anything like that. So they had a great Christmas. And so like when those neighbors went to sleep, since he was so jealous and envious of them, he decided he wanted to take everything they had on some Grinch shit. Yeah. And so he sneaks over to their house, and he is startled by, the grandfather from the neighbors.
Of the house. Yeah.
They startle one another. The grandfather falls down a flight of stairs and dies. Yep. And I guess that just started off because
he gets blamed for it. Everyone thinks that they all say he pushed the grandfather, and he's like, "Well, maybe I did," which just goes to Mike and I talk. This is a pretty weak motivation. He's just like, you're an 11-year-old kid. I get it, and now you're like,
you didn't get Christmas 1 year. He said, "Oh, life of crime."
Yeah, right. Clearly, like his dad. It sounds like he had a pretty decent enough childhood where like this dad loved him, wanted to celebrate Christmas, all this great stuff. And he's like, then 1 year he was laid off, and then I was like, I'm gonna steal stuff and then be a bad guy forever. All right.
I think this is also where the villains, like, so even with Krampus and the gift giving thing, it was like kind of over the top. Yeah. Krampus could have been just like, he could have kept it to the weird scene where he was like, "I'll crush his nuts."
Yeah, Krampus was over the top.
Kind of over the top in that. And then you get this kind of weak backstory with Scrooge. Yeah. And then so Santa goes, and so Trudy is right above him or whatever in the attic, trying to create a distraction. Yep. And while they're doing that, Santa goes, "I'm sorry, Jimmy, that you had to go through that, but that has nothing. It shouldn't be a reason why you're doing what you're doing." Excuse me. And then Bjorn recognizes that he knows his actual name.
How does Santa know?
How does this guy know your actual name? He goes, "Come on, Kira." Yeah. And then he says the Kira's name. He says, "I didn't make you eat make your brother eat worms.
That's naughty. That's why you didn't get anything for Christmas that year.
And then
made your brother
Bjorn,
eat
gingerbread.
worms. Yeah.
Gingerbread, he goes, come on, Bjorn. Like, just because I didn't get you that bike that one year or something like that.
I think he did give him the bike. He was like, you asked me that bike forever. I got you the bike. What do you want? What's your excuse, Bjorn? Why are you a bad guy?
So it's just like showing that he's just not some regular person.
Yeah, he knows
He
all
had
that.
done it with Trudy earlier, saying like he told her what she wanted when she was 6 and 7.
Yeah.
So this is they're proving that he's just not some random man.
Yeah. So now Kira and Bjorn are like, no, fuck, this is Santa Claus.
Mm-hmm.
And then Scrooge is like, no, this isn't Santa Claus, even though he literally just told you your name and like life story. But he's like, no, it's not Santa.
Lucky guess.
Yeah, lucky guess. Yeah, everyone wanted a bike. What? Yeah.
What's her name? Trudy. Puts, I guess, styrofoam in the air vents, and it makes it look like it's snowing in the room that Santa and the mercenaries are in. So they distracted, think it's snow.
Yeah.
And Santa has this power to go up any chimney.
Yeah, if he touches his nose, he can shoot up the chimney.
Yes.
And it wasn't working before for some unexplained reason. Like, because they don't really explain why stuff doesn't work. He tried to get out in the beginning of the movie with that, and it didn't work.
I guess, yeah. I thought, he was trying to get out up the chimney the same way he came.
Yeah.
You're right.
And it didn't work. But now this time, maybe because there's more Christmas spirit and belief, but to explain a lot of things are unexplainable.
It's Christmas magic.
Christmas magic. That's what they do. So then he right up the chimney and gets out. And then at this point in time, you have the strike team is now coming in.
Yes, now the strike team has arrived. And so Morgan,
the actor,
who's the boyfriend and the actor, who's been trapped in the living room with the rest of the family, subdues Krampus and jumps out of the window.
Which the man has said multiple times, like, if that was me and they didn't have guns, I could get out. You think he's full of crap, but he actually does knock a dude out and then, like, jump out of it. You're like, oh, this guy actually can kind of do what he says he's doing. Good, he runs.
Yeah, so instead of trying to help the family, he immediately helps himself and runs away. Yeah. And this is the twist that I saw coming. Yeah. That the strike team has actually is working with the mercenaries.
Yeah, they double crossed because the strike team knew, like, the guy told the strike team, $300 million, I guess we'll split.
Yeah, so the inside man for Scrooge. Actually, no, I don't think so. Because, he might have, like, the strike team guy might have been his inside man, but he was saying how, like, my intel wasn't wrong. Yeah. When it happened later. Yeah. So it was just like he had somebody else.
There could have been another guy. But either way, the strike team double crossed that because Bertie, or Gertrude, Gertie, the matriarch, assumed the strike team was on their side. Yes. But the guy, Scrooge, got in touch with the strike team first, and then now they've decided to all double-cross Gertrude so they can get the $300 million.
Yes. So they finally go to the vault because the strike team has a key, so that makes it so much easier. Yep. Open the vault, and it is empty. Yes. So now Scrooge is, like, very upset. He's like, what the hell is going on? Yeah. And then also, I think at the same time, Santa has the strike team is, obviously they're on the premises. Yeah, Santa's on the roof right Santa
now.
Was on the roof. He gets off the roof because they see him. Yeah, and he retreats to a garage
because they have like a full on
it's like 20 guys.
Yeah, 20 dudes on the strike team. They have machine guns firing at Santa on the roof. He falls off the roof and then runs to a shed off to the side, like a tool shed. It's a giant tool shed because everyone's rich there, but still a tool shed all the same.
So right before we get Trudy kind of gives him this
Christmas pep talk
about it was like
spirit,
because he was like he wished that he could if he had one. She had said, "What would you wish for Christmas?" He was, "I just want to talk to Mrs. Claus one last time." So she goes, "Well,
make it happen.
Make sure that happens."
She's like, "Make it happen, motherfucker." And I'm like, "All right, Trudy, you're 8 years old."
Language, lady. I'll allow the butthole.
She doesn't actually say that, but she is basically like, "Well, you need to make that happen."
So in the garage, he sees a sledgehammer.
Yes,
and this kind of gives him, the confidence he needs to, okay, I'm going to see this through. Yeah. But right before the assault on the garage from the strike team, the captain of the strike team and Scrooge go back to the living room and say, the vault's empty, what the fuck happened? Yeah. And so he's threatening to kill, one of the family members until he gets the answer. And it was so funny. Bert says a funny thing. It was like, because Scrooge says, I'm going to kill somebody at random. He was like, just quick question, guys. What if you kill the person that has the information?
Yeah, what if you kill... And he's like,
slow clap.
Yeah, so Bertrude is like the son of Elva, and he's sucked this entire time. But that was a good point on Bertrude's part. All right, Bert.
That's what always kills me about the bad guy. Hans Gruber.
Yes, Hans Gruber. Yes, there we go. Bravo. Hans Gruber's the villain in Die Hard, if you don't know.
know where that was going to kill me the whole time. But yeah, so it was that was a very funny moment from Bert. He was just like, I mean, you kill one of us, that could be the person that has the information.
Yeah.
And so, but he threatens to kill Linda because she's not a family member, so she wouldn't know anything. Yeah. Well, not a blood relative of Gertrude. Yeah. So she wouldn't know anything.
So Gertrude doesn't care if she does, basically.
And so because Linda's, you know, in danger, Jason, the son, admits that he stole the money.
Yeah.
He knew it was coming ahead of time, so he intercepted it because he was going to take that money to run away with his family, to get away from his mom and the control she has over him.
Yeah.
And his wife goes, so you're going to steal the money from your mom, but the reason why we broke up is because of your mom's money.
And your mom's money.
And he was like, well, now that you said it out loud.
You put it like that, but we could have been away for it. But yeah.
And so, flashback to the garage, you have the strike team infiltrate the garage, and Santa just takes them out one by one.
Yeah, or 3 by 3, whatever.
In the most interesting, gruesome ways. It was like the sledgehammer is the most dangerous tool.
Yeah. As soon as he has a sledgehammer in his hand, all of a sudden he's like, oh, wait, that's right. I was a Viking that literally killed thousands of people before I became Santa Claus. I remember how to do this. And he just goes ham on people. Like, sledgehammer this one guy. He picks up ice skates at one point. And is just like punching through people with ice skates. He has like a skate on each hand and just cuts right through the dude's neck.
The snow plow or something?
There was the snow. It's not a snow plow, but yeah. So when you push snow through to like shoot off to the side to like clear a path.
It's kind of like a wood chipper, but for snow.
Yeah, but for snow, exactly. And so he's running that down, and then he like ties it 2 dudes up and like chucks the rope into the snow, remover. It's called the snow remover, and of course those guys just get sucked right through it.
So he takes out every single person in the garage. Yeah, and then he runs out, and the guy that was, I guess the guy in the chair.
Yeah, he was the guy watching all their feeds and giving them information.
He tries to run away or something like that, and Santa catches up to him.
Throws his hammer at him.
And so, Santa catches up to him, so he takes a grenade. Yeah. Tries to, Santa catches it and stuffs it in his pants, and I think this was in a trailer where he was like, I gotta watch. And so the guy just blows up. Yeah. And so he's effectively taken out the entire... Well, most of the strike team.
Yeah, there's like 6 dudes left now.
Yeah, there's everybody just left in the house. Yeah. And so, right before that, we see that. So Santa's outside, and now he realized that Trudy, like they found her in the attic. Yes. So now he needs to get into the house. Right. Yes. And so this is where I just wrote in my notes: Home Alone booby traps, because this is talking about them referencing other Christmas movies. Mm-hmm. Trudy set up a few Home Alone traps to protect herself in the attic.
And they were just brutal.
And it was just she left the ladder to the attic there, and she just put one nail in one of the steps. Yep. And then like a bunch of nails on the floor in front of it.
Like a welcome mat at the bottom had a bunch of screws.
And so Gingerbread goes, if you're going to use Home Alone booby traps, make sure they're booby traps because we can see these. Yeah. And so like he starts to climb the ladder, and underneath the step that she put the nail, she broke the step.
Yeah, she like cut through it.
So he steps on it and like impales himself on the nail through the mouth. Yeah. And then like, so Kira, who is sick of this little girl's bullshit, climbs up the ladder over him.
She's like, I'll be back for you, don't worry about it.
As his face is still stuck to the... And then so he pulls it out, and then like he slips and falls back onto the welcome mat with the nails in it.
The nails and the razor blades. It was pretty... This was honestly the most brutal part of the movie.
But what was funny, it was like, because it solidified the fact that Kevin McAllister is a goddamn psychopath.
Yeah. Like, those dudes,
Like in the 90s, Home Alone was like, oh, that's cute stuff. Yeah. But like in real life, Joe Pesci and that other guy are dead.
Yeah, they're very seriously injured.
The second movie is a Jacob's Ladder scenario where they're ghosts.
They're coming back for vengeance.
So there's like bowling balls, and she kills... So freaking genius Gingerbread. Yeah. Pulls out some nail from his side. Yep. And holds it above his head. Mm-hmm. She uses bowling balls to incapacitate Kira. Yeah. Kira kicks the bowling ball down the ladder, and it hits the nail, which impales
right in his forehead. Then he just falls back again on the
So he's out.
Yeah, he's done.
And then like she utilizes like glue.
Yeah, super glue.
And like cement blocks, and it was just very interesting.
Yeah.
But Kira, being very, resilient and resourceful, gets out of the trap. But right before she's going to shoot Trudy, here comes Santa with a sledgehammer to Ex Machina.
Right to the chest. Yeah.
And so he saves Trudy, and now right before we return to the Santa returns her to her family, you see that Jason and Gertrude are being escorted out of the house because now Scrooge and the head mercenary guy, and I think the 2 or 3 guys,
one or 2 others,
left with him, are trying to find the money. So there's a whole, what is it?
The scene, the Christianity scene,
the manger,
the manger with the Jesus. I'm blanking on this. I was raised Catholic. I should know this. Anyway, not the rosary. Anyway, but yeah. So like the scene with Jesus, the 3 wise men, baby Jesus, Mary, Joseph.
Yeah. So there's one of those setups right outside the house. That's where Jason is hiding the money.
Yeah.
So now they're loading up the money, the bags onto these snowmobiles, and Scrooge says, "Well, kill the family.
Yeah.
We don't need you guys anymore." And so Krampus, who is watching the rest of the family in the house, which is Linda, Alva, and Bert.
Yep.
And he goes to kill them, and he's just trying to say which one first. And then you go back to the kind of the backstabbingness.
They're all like, "Kill him, kill her, kill him, kill her," and the Elva's like, "Kill my son." It's like, "Well, come on, lady, again, the kid with the son."
And so those 3 team up to take out Krampus.
Yeah, they distract him enough to then take out the Krampus mercenary guy.
And then so now Santa brings Trudy into the house, and they're like, we need to get Jason and Gertie and take out the rest of the mercenaries. So he gives Trudy a gun because apparently Alva doesn't know how to use one. Yep. But Trudy used to hunt with her dad.
What do you mean Linda did?
Linda,
sorry. Linda the mom. Yeah. She got the gun, so that way, because she used to hunt. So then he just chucks a gun at her. She's like, okay. And then they go out.
And so she lays down some suppressing fire, and Santa goes and takes out a few of the guards. I think Linda shoots one of the guys in the dick.
Yeah. Because again, it's an action movie, but it's an immature action movie, so someone's getting shot in the dick. That's what matters. Or the balls.
What happens? So
they get in the
Scrooge
snow.
And the head kill strike the leader of the kill strike team hop on snowmobiles with the money, and they take Gertrude as a hostage.
And there's one more guy behind
more guy. So Santa follows the money to save Gertrude.
Which he was on a snowmobile for a second, but then he grabs a sled. Yeah, he couldn't turn it on because Santa doesn't know how these futuristic gizmos work. That was a joke, but I'm like, dude, you've done a lot.
He doesn't know how to use his iPhone or a gun. Snowmobile.
Yeah, he can't use a gun, an iPhone, or a snowmobile. So then he grabs a sled and then just starts running after them.
Because in an action movie, if somebody's running away from you just hit a diagonal.
Yeah, diagonal.
You're gonna meet.
It's football pursuit angles, man. All right, that's what you got to do.
So Santa's in pursuit of Scrooge and the money, and so at that same time, you see kind of Linda and Jason something's being rekindled in them. Yeah. And then the last mercenary stands up, so they kind of team up. To take him out, but Linda does more.
Yeah, Linda really does everything. She does he helps a bit. He Jason jumps on the guy's back. He's gets his ass beat. The dude's choking Linda. Yeah. Linda grabs a random icicle, which is now powerful enough to then stab in the dude's neck. Icicles weren't that powerful.
And then so you see them kind of after they've taken out the last mercenary, they kind of just embrace, and Trudy sees this, and it was she gets her wish. Her family, the romance has been rekindled.
This whole subplot I thought was a little awkward. I'll be completely. It was all right, it's nice, I get it, you have to have it. It felt a little awkward the entire time, but it's nice that the family's back together. So hey.
And so we get Santa. He takes out the mercenary guy and Gertrude. But he kind of rescues Gertrude, and then he goes after Scrooge.
Yes.
And this was just very kind of a really cool fight. So
yes, this was a very well done fight scene.
So you have Santa versus Scrooge, and so Scrooge has some ice pick,
an ice pick and a knife, or an ice pick and something else, because he still has he has his knife on his hip, but an ice.
It was the thing you use when you're climbing.
No, he had another weapon too. Yeah. I'm blanking on, but so he had the ice pick which you climb with, and then the other thing.
And then Santa obviously has his sledgehammer. It had a name, I couldn't think of it.
Oh well, Skull Crusher was his actual sledgehammer. He has the random sledgehammer that he found in the garage. Later, that's later. Yeah. So then they get into this big fight, and it's a well done fight. Yeah. And then for everything with Scrooge's character, for having kind of not a great backstory, for having some kind of really cheesy bad dialogue, this last fight with Scrooge and Santa is very well done. Yeah. And it's brutal. It's brutal, man.
And I think the same thing. They're still utilizing their environment.
Mm-hmm.
So like they're in a house at first, and the house kind of blows up, and so now they're back on the in the snow,
like a clearing where there's a lot of ice.
And there's a lot of ice. So Scrooge puts on these ice shoes, so he can properly walk, but Santa has on his boots,
so he can't walk.
So there's a disadvantage that he has. Mm-hmm. So it's like he's utilizing that.
Yeah,
and so like Santa is gets incapacitated and. Scrooge is about to take out Santa, and once again utilizing this chimney power. That's just huge because it was like whatever house they were in had a chimney there for some random.
It's like those old school. So this is like an old style. Like they used to have outdoor chimneys, right? With the fire inside, they'd have an outdoor chimney. Or this was like the ruins of a house that used to be there. So an outdoor chimney that used to be, and then so Santa grabs Scrooge, and then he does his magic nose trick, and they just and Santa can get sucked up the chimney a-okay. Scrooge cannot.
You just see him get sucked up into a chimney, and then like Santa just arrives on top with the body
with the headless, armless, legless body of Scrooge, because all of that couldn't fit up the chimney.
So, it was beautiful. I just literally all caps chimney kid,
and just like blood's flying. Yeah, Santa Claus has this like headless body, and he just dumps it off the side, and he's looking victorious.
And then he gets shot by the mercenary. The kill squad leader.
Yeah.
And then, so you think he's going to take out Santa.
Mm-hmm.
He's standing over him. And then here comes Gertrude with the gun that she found when she got rescued.
Yeah.
And this is what pissed me off about. She literally somehow sneaks up on a man.
In snow?
In snow. I guess he has no peripheral vision.
Yeah. Because in snow, crunch, 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 crunch. Every time you walk in snow, you hear crunches. So like he's just really focused on this fight scene with Santa, I guess.
And so she takes out the kill strike leader who, betrayed her.
Yeah.
And then we get Jason, Linda, and Trudy arrive.
The entire family.
Along with Bert and Alva.
Yeah.
And Santa's dying because he's bleeding out.
Because he's taken 1 billion wounds. He's gotten shot 3 times. He's gotten impaled 1 billion times. The man he's beat up. So he dies.
And so he dies, and then they kind of go on this whole, well, if you believe in him, you won't. So like Trudy says she believes, and like Jason is looking at her like little girl.
Yeah.
But then her mom kind of like.
No, Jason has a good part. Jason's trying to warm him up. So Jason decides to burn like money to try and warm up Santa, which is a great arc for Jason because he was very obsessed with money before, like every Lightstone family member. So he's like, we got to get him warm, keep him warm. So then Jason runs over, grabs a bag of money, and throws that on a fire to try and warm up Santa. Yeah. But
so Trudy in disbelief, so she says she still believes in Santa. Mm-hmm. Her mom, Linda, says, well, I believe too. And then Jason and then Bert, the grandmother, they all... The last one, Alva's like, oh, come on,
guys. And the entire time, Alva, the sister, she's like, he's burning money. He's going to die. She's like, he's going to die. We don't need to burn the money to save him here. What?
And so Santa wakes up.
Yes.
And
because of the belief in Christmas.
Because he says, again, Christmas magic, don't know how this whole Kris Kringle thing works.
Yeah.
And then you see that the reindeer have returned.
The sleds returned,
with the sled, and they have a spare toy bag because during the interrogation,
Santa's toy bag.
Scrooge burned his toy bag.
Yeah. And there's a really nice note from Mrs. Claus.
Yes.
Along with Skull Crusher. She's like, hey, maybe you might need this. Yeah. And like, well, first off, man, you got this way too late. Like, your husband died. Like, it could have been nice if you gave him this a while ago. But I appreciate the sentiment from Mrs. Claus.
Mm-hmm. So he leaves the family and rides off to give the kids gifts to the rest of the world. And that's the end.
And he rides off into the moonset because it's nighttime, not the sunset. I'm patenting that name, so don't take it from me. But that is the end of the movie. So whenever we finish a movie, the first question is, Mike, did your opinion of the movie change while we were reviewing it?
It did not. I say entertaining, had its flaws, give it a 3.
Yeah. Honestly, for me, reviewing it, I feel even a little bit more strongly about it. I'm still giving it a 3, but part of me, when I walked into us hanging out, I was like, should I give this movie a 2.5? But no, after reviewing it, I'm like, no, this movie was a 3. It had some fall offs here and there, but if you want some good old Christmas hyper violence and a ridiculous scenario, Violent Night's going to be pretty chill. But that is everything from us. Again, we are the 2 Meddling Kids. If you'd like to reach out to us via email, please reach out to 2meddlingkids@gmail.com or ask.2 Meddling Kids Pod Or we also have Twitter and Instagram at 2 Meddling Kids. Mike, how can they reach out to you?
On Instagram at Days from Legendary.
Cool. And if you'd like to reach out to me, I am EdHunt77 on Twitter and Instagram. I usually check Twitter. I don't tweet a lot, but I'm there. But Instagram is probably the best way as well. But that is us signing off, and we will see you next week. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.